Halavai.
Okay, a good morning on this snowy day. Baruch Hashem, we have the warmth of Torah to warm our innards. Uh, we are beginning on the Mishnah on Yud Gimel Amid Beis, and we're in the sugi of Pigel, mamish immersed in the sugi of Pigel. Shachat shnei kvasim lechel achas menachales. Now, we know by now there are two kvasim that were brought on Shavuos. They mated the shtei lechem, and the purpose of shtei lechem was to mated the chodosh in the Beis Hamikdash. The oimer and Tezai Nisan mated the chodosh in the Medina. The wheat on Shavuos mated the chodosh in the Beis Hamikdash. What mated the shtei lechem was two kvasim. What was unique about these kvasim? Even though it was shlomim, they were kachik kadashim. Even though they were shlamim, they were kachik kadashim, right? These are the kivsei atzeres. So now, you went ahead, you shechted two of them to eat one of the shtei lechem. So you took care of the whole matir, you took care of the matir, but the nitar, the thing that right, you only took care of one. What's the halacha in the other one? So shachat shnei kvasim lechel achas menachalas lemachar, or take the shtei v'zichen lechel echem min hasedorim, the shtei v'zichen that mated the lechem haponim, and there was 6 and 6. So you did both bezichen to mata one seder. So this is the exact same case, right? You're doing the whole matir. You're shechting both kvasim. You're burning both bezichen, but you're only doing it in one of the things that are becoming mutter. Rabbi Yossi Yomer Oisa Hachala v'Oisa Seder Shechishav Lo Pigel v'Chayim Lo Kares. That one they thought about would have a din in kares, but the other chala or the other 6, all the 6 would not. V'Hasheni pasel be'im kares. The Chachamim Haim is a pigel v'Chayim Lo Kares. They're both pigel bat and the chayiv kares. They're both pigel and chayiv kares. Okay, let's go over it again. L'chavid pini. So you have over here. You have the matirim, and you have the things that are becoming mutter. The matirim over here are two sheep. They're matering the 2 loaves of bread, shtei lechem. You have 2 bezichin, 2 frankincense pots. They're matering what? They're matering the 12 loaves of lechem apanim. What you did is you shechted both and you burnt both, but you only had in mind one of the 2, either one of the lechem or one of the sedarim. Taisus discussed about had who I didn't be one out of the 6 would the whole thing be usher. But from Pasha B'Shat, Machlokes, says Rabbi Yossi, that one that you did is pigel and chayiv kares. The other one that you didn't have in mind is not. The Chacham said they both kares. That you have in my mind both chayiv kares. Now Rav Huna is going to say the reason for Rabbi Yossi, and he's going to bring in a dimion of the yerachim, the thighs of an animal. Rav Huna. I'm a hoya Rabbi Yossi. I'm over here means like my time with Rabbi Yossi, guys. Like yesterday, my timer. I'm a hoya Rabbi Yossi. My timer. Pigel b'yerach shel yamin. You have an animal, and you're going ahead, and you have in mind that you're gonna bring the right thigh tomorrow. Chutz lizman. Lo nispagal hayerach shel smile. Despite the fact that it's one entity, guys. Again, over here, this is a bigger chiddush, fellas, than 2 lechems. The 2 lechems are what? Are separate. Here, the animal is one. Even so, says Reb Yossi, even though it's chad gufa, my machshava in one would not go ahead and be mispagel the other. So you'd only have pigel in the right thigh, not the left thigh. My timer, iba yisem esvara, iba yisem akra, iba yisem esvara. Lo yadifa machshava mimaisa hatuma. Ilu itma chad aver mi itma lakula. If the animal was separate, it was dismembered, and when it was tamei the right thigh, the left side won't be tamei. So who adin a pigel in the right side that doesn't nispashate the pigel into the left side. Your whole machshava was in the right side. That's the svara why only 1 and not 2. V'ba yisem akra, it's a pasuk. V'nefesh ha'oichelas mimenu avoina tisa, and the nefesh that eats from it avoina tisa, he will carry his aveira. Right, this is the pasuk of pigel. Mimenu, from it, v'loy mechaberoi, only from it, but not from its chaver. So only from the right side, not the left side. Only from the right, not the left. Mimenu it, not chavera. So okay. So again, Rav Huna is saying the reason for Rabbi Yossi in our Mishnah that only one of them is pigel is the same thing as what if you go ahead and you have machshava pigel in the thigh, the other thigh is not pigel. So what in our Mishnah, despite our Mishnah being set two separate things, right? Not one thing. We're going to go ahead and consider it what one, and therefore what it's going to be. It's not going to be pigel. It's going to be only one. Aser of Nachman Rav Huna. The Chachamim Maimrim, this is by the Kivsei Atzeres, guys. This is by the Kivsei Atzeres. The first word is important. La'olam. La'olam, ein by Karis, by the Kivsei Atzeres, there's no din of pigel Karis, at sheyifagel b'shtehen, until you mefagel in both of the chalois, b'kazayis. You have to mefagel in both of them the share of a kazayis. In other words, I can have chatzi zayis in one and chatzi zayis in the other, but you need to have in mind both. B'shteyem in, only in both chalas. B'shteyem in, bi'achas mehen loy, but one of them not. So the diak is, in order to be pigel, I had to have in mind the two things that are becoming mutter. I had to have in mind the two lechems. And the chiddush is, even though I'm only having a chatzi zayis in one and chatzi zayis in the other, my machshava can make those two chalas as one. That's the chiddush over here. You hear that? My machshava can make these two as one, and therefore we mitzaref the two chatzi zayisim. Masha'en kain, if I only have a machshava in one of them, it's not going to work. Even a full zayis or the whole thing, it won't work. Because why? I need the whole thing. That's now, we're going to ask, guys, we're building up to a kasha Rav Huna who said if you mispagel in one, it's not pigel in the other thigh, right? We're building up to that kasha. Now, money. Who is the Tana of this brisa? So, guys, you got the brisa, very important, because the Gemara is going to spend a lot of time in it. The brisa says, La'olam, you're not going to be chayiv karis until you have the machshava in both of the thighs. But one of the thigh, it's not going to be. Good? Now, who is this Tana? Ilaim Rabbanon. Guys, what did the Rabbanon say in the Mishnah? If you mispagel in one, you chayiv pigel in the other one. Even a machshava in one is enough. Right? Look back at our Mishnah, guys. Back in the Mishnah. Shachat shnei kvasim le'echol achas min achalois. So what does the Chacham say? Says the Chachamim, pigel v'chayiv karis. So what do you see? Even if your machshava was in one, you can be chayiv. So obviously, the Chachamim can't be the Tana of this brisa, because this brisa says you need machshav in both, and the Chachamim say no, even in one will create pigel in the other one. So therefore, afilu ba'achas mehenami el pshita, it must be Rabbi Yossi. Good, it must be Rabbi Yossi that says if you think of pigel in two, then it would what? Then it would be pigel in one, not. Iyamit bishlema bishlev, you'll tell me chad gufahu. Bishleim, you'll tell me that the thighs are considered as one. So if you have a machshava in right, it's a machashev the left, or vice versa. Bishleim, if you tell me by two thighs, I'll consider it one, right? Therefore, I can mitzaref to two chalas. If you're going to tell me, guys, the two thighs are considered separately, Mi mitzarfe, could the shtei lechem be considered as one? Guys, listen to this. You're telling me the following, that you're making two into one. Where is it more svar to say two is one? By the animal with the thighs, or by two separate chalas? Obviously, the animal with the thighs. It's one animal with two thighs. So, bishlema, if you're going to tell me the animal with two thighs is pigel in both, I can understand. Therefore, it's pigel if you have machshava pigel in the chalas. It's also considered what as one. But if you're going to tell me like Rav Huna that Rav Yossi would consider two thighs as two thighs, how in the world can you get two chalas to be considered one? Right? It doesn't make any sense. So that's the challenge from this brisa. If this brisa is Reb Yossi, we're challenging Rav Huna's pshat in Rabbi Yossi. Rav Huna's pshat in Rabbi Yossi is that they're separate over there, and therefore it's separate by chalis. I'm showing you a brisa where it's mashma that it must be that what? That if you have machshava in the two thigh, in the two chalis, in two chalis is one. If the two chalas is one, it must be the two thighs are one. Because two thighs are more svara to say is one than two chalas. Says the Gemara, okay, it's not a problem. I'll tell you why. This is not Rabbi Yossi, it's Rabbi. It would only be a problem if Rav Huna is explaining the Baisa according to Rabbi Yossi. If Rav Huna is explaining the Baisa according to Rabbi, it's not a problem. Now, what does Rabbi have to say? That it would be mitzdarif these two. Hatanya, hashoichet es hakevesh, yishech kevesh lechol chatzi zayis michalazu, v'chein chaveru lechol chatzi zayis michalazu. Guys, what's the case? Two sheep, two lechems. You're shechting one for the other. One for one and a half, one for one and a half. You're shechting, you're taking care of both matirim, you're taking care of both kvasim, but when you shechted one, you had in mind half a zayis of challah, and when you shechted the other one, you had in mind half a zayis from the other challah. So you have half and half. You shechted the whole thing, but have half and half. Rabbi Omer Ani, she's a kasha. This is not going to be pigel. It's kasha. Now, why is it going to be kasha? The Amar chatzi, because he only shechted almanas half and half pigel. Aval Amar kizayis mishtehem, if he would say a kizayis from both of them, guys, what? I'm shechting both sheep. One I have in mind a kizayis from one I have in mind a kizayis from the other. Then they will be pigel. Okay. Aval Amar kishnayis mishtehem. Excuse me. I said wrong pshat. Kizayas mishtehem. One kizayas from both of them. Guys, look. Always it's always about the fingers. You got two animals, right? You're shechting both. You have two matirim. And you're shechting half. Doesn't work. What happens if you shech two and you have in mind kizayas from both? So you're being mitzdaref the two. Right? You're being mitzdaref the two. Because I had in mind kizayas from one of them. Not from two of them, from one of them. But if I would shecht, aval oma kazayis mishtehem, a kazayis from two of them, mitzdaref. For Rabbi Alibi the man, right? Rabbi Alibi the man. I Alibi the Rabbanon, afilo miachas mehen. Even Rabbanon, even one of them. You didn't need a kazayis from. Let me make sure I'm telling you right pshat. I didn't give you the right shot. Let's go through it again one more time. Rabbi, so you're shechting the kevesh, you're shechting half from this challah and half from this challah. Rabbi Yomer, it's kosher. Time adama chatzi. Aval oma kizayis mishteyim. If you'd say a kizayis in both of them, right? If you'd say a kizayis in both of them, mitzdarif. Then, if you said a kazayas from both of them, Rashi says, "Aval omer kazayas mishteim da arvon l'chalois b'machshavasai." You made the two as one. V'omer b'chol echa v'echa min akfosim havini shoichel amnas lechol kazayas mishteihem. In other words, you're not a kazayas from one of them, guys. It's a kazayas from both of them. Kazayas from both of them. The reason it didn't work initially is because you said half and half. But now I'm doing the same thing, guys. It's 2 and 2. But on these two, it's going to be a full kazayas. Okay, Baruch Hashem. I'm telling you. I'm glad I corrected myself. Okay, but you said a kazayas mishtehem, then it's be mitzdarif. Now, so you see that why the two can combine. Now, for Rabbi Aliba the man, who did Rabbi say is then according to? I Aliba the Rabbanon, it can't be. I feel achas mehem. You need a kazayas in both of them, fellas. Again, why does Rabbanon in the Mishnah say even one of them? So I Aliba the Rabbi Yossi, and if it's according to Rabbi Yossi, Hadru kosher l'duchte. We're back to point one. Right? Rabbi Yossi, the difference between two thighs and a machshava. If by two thighs it's going to be separate, then two chalas is certainly going to be separate. La'olam aliba the rabbanon. La'olam it's the rabbanon. Okay, now here's the kasha, guys. If it's the rabbanon, fellas, look at me. I shechted two for two. I only need one. Like the rabbanon, if I shech two for one, the other one automatically becomes pigel. But you're telling me two for two. So how could it be the rabbanon, right? How can it be the rabbanon? Now we're going to do a change, guys. What's the change? The shteihem over here is not shteihem lashon nekeva, which would be chalois. It's shneihem. It means the two kvasim, which are lashon zacha. So now, lo'ilam rabbanon, lo'ilam it's the rabbanon. Okay. V'loi tema ad sheyifagel b'shteihem, and don't say lo'ilam. It's not going to be pigel until you mefagel in the two chalas. Ela ema ad sheyifagel b'shneihem, v'afilu ba'achas mehem. In other words, v'afilu, guys, if you mefagel in both kvasim, if I'm mefagel in both kvasim, then even, look at my fingers, then even if it's in one chala, it'll be pigel in the other chala. Again, until now, we thought the shteim is going on what? Is going on the chalas, because it says lashon shteim. And therefore, we had a problem with a kasha on Rebbe. No, this is not a kasha. Rebbe taka holds, guys, the two thighs are separate, and it's not going to be pigel in both. I over here, it's mashma, it's what? It is going to be pigel if you have a machshav in two. No shaykhis. It's not going to be pigel until you mefagel in both of the matirim. If you bring only one sheep, you mefagel b'chatzi mater. It's speaking where you bring both sheep, and therefore that's the chiddush. But what's the chiddush? You need both sheep to create pigel. But guess what? Where could you create the pigel vis-a-vis the chalas? Even in one of the chalas. Then if you do one of the chalas, automatically the other one will become pigel. That's the chachamim. And therefore it's not a kasha on Rabbi Yossi. We just redid the brisa, guys, with a cut and paste job, right? We went ahead, we took out the kasha from chalas, we go ahead, we made it into what? Into shaylav kvasim, and als is good. For a moment, als is good. Just when you understand the Gemara, then you know what happens. Okay. Guys, go back to the brisa on the Amid Beis. 3 lines up. La'olam ein bo karetz asher yifagel b'shteihem. Now you're telling me the following. There's no karetz until you yifagel b'shneihem, right? You mefagel in both of the animals, b'kazayis. And the share of kazayis, even if it's only one of the chales. Good? Now, back by us. The word la'olam means, is that what? La'olam means this is the only case of pigel. There's not going to be any other case of pigel. In other words, la'olam means this is the only case. Good? We got a problem over here. What's our problem? Let's see. Ihachi. Excuse me. And the sheet, the chiddush of the brisa is, opposed to the sheet of Reb Meir, the Amar, mifaglim b'chatzi mater. If you'd be one sheep, you would create pigel, even though it's only one of the matirim. Kamash malon, the chachamim, no, you have to go ahead, and shech both matirim. Ihachi, if that's the pshat, like we just read in the brisa, my la'olam. What does it mean la'olam? La'olam is mashma, aim by kazayas says sheyafagel. This is the only case. La'olam is only the only case. However, 1 second. La'olam, i'amit b'shleim b'shteihem. B'shleim, it's going to be the pshat. That was a kasha on Rebbe, meaning that the oilam, you did the 2 animals and you did the 2 chalis, ub'shneihem. You did both the 2 animals and the 2 chalis, and therefore you did half and half. Rabbi Yossi he, and therefore it's Rabbi Yossi. Ula fuki mid Rabbi Meir, who says you only have to do 1 animal. Umid Rabbanon, and a fuki the Rabbanon who says you have to do 1 chala. Guys, listen to the kanech, right? Bishleim, you guys look at me. The fingers are the best. Bishleim, you need 2 and 2. You need 2 animals and 2 chalas to create the pigel. 2 is lafuke the shita of Rabbi Meir that you only need 1. 2 that lafuke the chachamim that you only need 1. Right? Then I have a la'olam. La'olam, I have a la'olam. That's very good. But Ela'i Amir Rabbanon ulafukim Rabbi Meir my la'olam. It's if it's according to it's only one sheet that la'olam, you're only coming to exclude one case, That's not lo'ilam. That's not lo'ilam. That's one kasha. Why this brisa can't be the Rabbanan? And therefore, it's Rabbi Yossi, and therefore I have a problem. V'oid. Ha'omar, again, and I have a problem according to Rav Huna. Guys, we're slugging up Rav Huna. Guys, let's go back to Rav Huna. Rav Huna is the one who says the reason for Rabbi Yossi is the reason why if you have a machshava of pigel in one chala, only that is the same thing. We have machshava and pigel in one thigh, right? And we're seeing over here, 1 second. It doesn't, if you're going to have pigel in chalas, you have to have pigel in two thighs. Madach in two chalas you'd have pigel. Certainly in two thighs you'd have pigel in both. And you don't. So that's one. V'oid. According to Rabbi Yossi, you don't. V'oid. Ha'omer of Ashi. Toshma. Rebbe says, I think it's a different gears over here with Rebbe Loza. Yeah, Rebbe Loza Oimer. Rebbe Loza says, Mishum Rebbe Yossi. Pigel b'dava nasa b'chutz. Okay, guys, outside. Let's go. Let's do outside. Eye contact. We know pigel exists we learned that from Shlomim. That's the pasuk on Parshas Shmini. Shlomim. Yeah. So now, and I think it Parshas Kedoshim also. You learn that pigel for Shlomim. We have a limud that it also applies to a chatos panimius. Even the parahelim davish al tzibor, the para kohen gadol, right? It would be there as well. Now, what's the avoida that we do inside, unique to inside? Is you spritz 7 times in front of the preiches, and you put 4 times your dab on the mizbeach hazav. Now, what happens to a machshava of pigel outside from machshava of an inside, and vice versa? That's the discussion over here, and we're going to show that the kasha on Rabbi Yossi. Okay, says the Gemara. Pigel b'davar nasa b'chutz pigel. If you pigel something that's done outside, it's pigel. B'davar nasa b'fnim loy pigel. Ketzad, for example, you're standing outside. Like this part is par non srafim. You're standing outside. For Omar, Hareni shachet, I'm shechting this par. Al menas lahazais midamoy lemachar. Al menas to spritz 7 spritzing in front of the preiches tomorrow. Loy pigel. You know why? Shemachshava b'chutz b'davar nasa b'fnim. You had machshava outside on avoida that's done inside. You thought you b'shash shchita and avoida that's b'chutz to do the spritzing on the 7 things inside. That's not going to work. Conversely, haya oimid b'fnim, you're standing inside. V'amar hareini maza, I'm spritzing 7 times. Al menas lahachteri murim lemachar, which is avoida outside. V'lishbach shirayim lemachar, or to pour the shirayim lemachar. Loy pigel, it's not pigel. Shemachshav b'fnim b'davar nasa b'chutz, because that was an inside machshava for an outside machshava. Hayomi b'chutz v'am hareni shoichet al manas lishbach shirayim lemachar. I'm standing outside by this chatas panimius, and I'm shecht al manas to pour the shirayim lemachar. Again, there's a day that shirayim is ma'aket, right? By chatas panimius. Ulahachterei murim lemachar pigel. Shemachshavas b'chutz b'davar nasa b'chutz. Okay, so now, guys, let's focus on one case. I'm shechting outside. Al menas to go ahead and pour the blood tomorrow. It's pigel, and you chayiv kares. When we speak about pigel chayiv kares, by now we know it doesn't mean the action of creating the pigel. It means eating the object that has been nispagel. Right? The meat becomes pigel. If you eat that meat, you chayiv kares. That's the din of kares is not in the creation of the pigel. The din of pigel is what? Puzzle means what you did, and chayiv kares is in the eating. So, guys, I'm going ahead. I'm shechting bachutz. Al menas to throw the shirayim on the side tomorrow. It's pigel. You chayiv kares. What do you chayiv kares for? What are you eating? You can eat the dam? Okay, so if you eat the dam, we'll say Issa Chalalissa, right? We'll say, okay, you have the Issa of dam, and now you have the Issa pigel. There's a problem, guys, and we spoke about this many times. There's no din of pigel in the dam, because dam is a matir. It comes around, guys. You remember this stuff, right? It can't be when you had the machshava of shchita to sport a dam that is. So you know what the chiyuv is? Guys, listen. The chiyuv is in the basa. The chiyuv is in the basa. So watch. If my machshava in the blood could shaf a pigel in the basa, you mean to tell me my machshava of basar in the right leg cannot create a machshava of pigel in the left leg? That's the kasha. Geschmacka kasha. Geschmacka kasha, guys. One more time. One more time. You're telling me, I'm doing it outside before we see it inside. You're telling me that we're discussing the chatas pnimius, and you tell me you can't mix and match machshavas inside outside, but you could match machshavas outside. Good, you could. So now, what's my machshava outside? One of the cases was I shechted it, and b'shasta my machshava was to pour the blood the next day. Says the Bryce, it's pigel and chayiv kares. Where is the chayiv kares? As we know, it's on the object. What's the object in Mechayiv Kares for? Dam? No can do. Dam is a matter. It must be my machshava on the dam creates pigel in the basa. Madach, my machshava in external can go ahead and create pigel in the meat. Certainly, when the meat is there itself, a right leg and a left leg, my machshava, that's the kasha on Rav Huna's Pshat and Rabbi Yossi. So the first kasha is a lomdis from a brisa. The second one is a kasha from a mishnah. Geschmack. Let's see it inside. So Yechayev chutz b'chutz. V'ma hareini shoychel amanas lishbach shirayim l'machar u'lahakdei imur l'machar pigel shemachshava b'chutz b'dav v'nasa b'chutz lishbach l'shirayim lifgulei mai. What's it creating pigel in? Lifgulei dam. If it's to create the pigel in the dam which you're pouring, if you're going to tell me it's to create the pigel in the dam that you're pouring, dam mi mefagel. Does dam become pigel? V'tanan elu devarim shein chayav malei mishum pigel. These are the things you're not chayav mishum pigel. HaKoimetz, Valvaina. Guys, what do all these have in common? Koimetz is a matter, Levaina is a matter, Ketoris is a matter, is itself, Minchas Kahanim, there is no matter, Ketoris is no matter, Minchas Koim is no matter, Minchas Tesachim, there's no matter, Minchas Koim Mashiach, they're all burnt. Vehadam, that's the one where we need. Vehadam. So it can't be going at the dam. El Pshita, La Fluge Bebasa. It's to go ahead and be maflig in the basa. Hashta, Umahosna by Shirayim. Umahosna by the Shirayim. Right? You didn't go ahead and think about the basar itself. You thought about the what? You thought about the blood. Rabbi Yosef Mefagel, hacha over here by the yamin and the small. The zevach gufa like kol shekain. Madach over there, guys, by the chalas, right? By the chalas. You went ahead, you shechted, right? You didn't shecht it in the basa. You're going to tell me it's going to kashrayim. Certainly, what where you have machshav on the left, the right l'kashrayim l'kol shekain. The pigel b'yerach yamin, pigel b'yerach small. That's the second kasha on Rav Huna. So we have one alumdis from a brisa and two from a mishnah. A third kasha on Rav Huna. V'oid. This is a similar kasha. Amar Ravina Tashma. Hakoymet says amincha lechol shirecha. Because do me a favor, remind me at the end of Shir to go over this Rashi. I want to go over this Rashi to you, okay? It's a long Rashi. I want to do it inside, but after Shir. Someone remind me. Lenny, you're good at that. Remind me at the end of Shir to go over this Rashi. Now, Toshma, so this will make sense, right? You have Machshav and Koimetz, which is Achilas Mizbeach. Right? Koimetz is amincha to eat the shirayim, achilas adam, or to burn the koimetz with achilas mizbeach. Moide Rabbi Yossi bizu shepigel b'chayavim lakaris. Okay, he's moide. Rabbi Yossi was moide in that, right? That was the Mishnah. Yes, you're doing kamitza, to burn the koimetz the next day, or to eat the shirayim the next day. Yes. Now burning the koimetz. To burn the koimetz the next day. 1 second. Lahakta kunsa lifgulei mai. Where are you creating pigel? Where are you creating pigel? If it's to tell me that's a din and pigel in the koimetz, we just said koimetz is a matir. Koimetz mi mafagel v'tanan elu devarim shein chayav lemishum pigel hakoimetz el pshita lafgulei b'shirayim hashta umachosam b'lei choshev b'shirayim gufa. You weren't thinking about Shirayim himself. You were thinking about the Koimetz, Amid Beis. Mifalge, the shrine becomes what? Pigel, hacha, by the two thighs. The chosher be bezvicha gufa. You thought about the zevach itself, like kol shekain. So therefore, this is the third upshlag on Rav Huna. Guys, outside. Madach, Rabbi Yossi is moida. If I have machshava to burn the kaimitz tomorrow, it creates pigel. Now, where does it create pigel? Are you eating the kaimitz? You're not eating the kaimitz. Why does it create pigel? In the shirayim, the flour that remains, right? Flour that remains. It creates pigel in that. So madach, the kaimitz itself, which you can eat, similar to the dam which you can't eat, creates pigel by dam in the basar. In the kaimitz, in the shirayim, certainly where it's one goof, the left leg and the right leg, it should create pigel in both. Not like you, Rav Huna, and now he's slugged up. Rav Huna's out. So now we go back to Rabbi Yossi. Now we get back, Ella, Rabbi Yochanan, Rashi, guys, Ella, Rabbi Yochanan, 2 lines from the top. Ella, Rabbi Yochanan, Lessa le Rav Huna. Rav Huna's out. The Ella knocks at Rav Huna with his 2 thighs. Then pigel b'yamin, pigel b'smoil. And if you go ahead and you mefagel in one leg, it's pigel in the other leg. The chazin nafil lechishav ele bedam nispagel basar. The gabe chales high time. So now what about the chales, guys? So guys, if you tell now you have a kasha, fellas. What's the reason we got into the right and left? To tell me why you only chayiv one in the chales, right? The gabe chales, my time of Rabbi Yossi, dom masni son, the trei gufeinino. They're 2 separate entities. Then pigel bezu, lein is pagel bezu. Ulel ketani b'shteihem, and before we said both of them, because Zayas, the mashma with them it's starfus, the chad gufaninu. Okay, so now you got a problem. Now, we're segueing in, guys. We're segueing in. Look at me, look at me, look at me. It's the hard Gemara these days, you know. But Baruch Hashem, we have clarity. Once you've destroyed the 2 legs, that they're one entity, right? That they're one entity, and you chayiv on both. So now, that's because they're one entity. Where does Rabbi Yossi says where it's 2 chalas? If you think about one, it's only that one, correct? But the Brisa said, if you think about 2, a kazayas from 2, how can you be mitzvah of that? I don't understand. There are 2. In other words, you, Rabbi Yossi, said the following. You said 2 in the Mishnah, 1 counts and not 2. We came up with the reasoning because of 2 legs. We're finished with 2 legs. 2 legs are 1 leg. Okay, so now you're telling me if 2 legs are 1 leg, then 2 chalas, right? Should be 1 chalas should be 2 chalas, right? But it's not. And then the Brisa says, you know what? I'll tell you why it's not, because it's 2 separate things. By the thighs, they're one thing. By the chalas, they're 2 separate things. So if I think about 1 chala, it doesn't include the other one. But I have a brisa that says I do make them 2 together. If I'm mechashev b'shas haktorah, I'm mechashev b'shas the shechting of the kevasim, I'm mechashev that I'm going to need a kazayas from both of them, they become one thing. How does that happen? We explained the Mishnah, but the brisa, the oilam of the brisa, right? The oilam of the brisa that says shteihem, how does that work? Guys, you with me? Should I blow it by you one more time? I should do it one more time or not? Okay, one more time. Yes? Good. We have to deal with 2 things. We have to deal with the Mishnah and we have to deal with the Brisa. The Brisa, Mishnah says, according to Rabbi Yossi, if I go ahead and I have machshava in one, the other one is not pigel. That's because, now we're concluding that's because it's 2 separate things. Good? Now, I have a Brisa that says, right, if I have shechta 2, al manas to eat a kazayas from both, it's considered one thing. But why? I think it's 2 separate things. So let's view it as 2 chatzis, right? How can that work? That's what Rabbi Yossi is coming to. Rabbi Yochanan's coming to answer up. Ella, Rabbi Yochanan. All this is in Rabbi Yochanan, what we just spoke out. Hainu time of Rabbi Yossi. What's the Rabbi Yossi that says in the Brisa that 2 can be 1? Kosev asa guf echad. The pasuk makes the shtei lechem as 1. The kos asa shtei gufim keechad, and it makes 2 gufim as 1. The ma'akvei adot. The kosavas guf echad, but kosavas shtei gufim. It makes it one, it makes it two. Sometimes we'll view the shtei lechem as one, sometimes we'll view it as two. Guf echad the ma'akve adadi. Guf echad the ma'akve each other, right? If you only bring one for pigel, not the other one, right? That's guf echad, that the ma'akve adadi. And shnei gufim, dam rachmana, holachudi avidita, v'holachudi aviditu. And this one, what? So therefore, they're ma'akim each other, fellas. I can't bring one without the other. So they're one. In other words, if you bring only one of them, it's not going to matter the chadash. You got to bring both of them. Good. On the other hand, that's how we view them as one. On the other hand, we view them as two because they were made separately. Now the application. Arvinu, if you go ahead and put them together, like the brisa, fellas, like the brisa, I'm shechting two, almanasti, the kazayas from both. Miss Arvin, then they put together that kosav asa guvechad, because the Torah makes them as one. Palginuhu, if I go separately, like our Mishnah, I'm shechting two for one, mefagli. That one is pigel, that kosav asa shnei gufim. Rabbi Yochanan is explaining Rabbi Yossi. Guys, again, we have a stira in Rabbi Yossi in the Mishnah to the Brisa. In the Mishnah, it's two separate. In the Brisa, it's one separate. Okay? Says Rabbi Yochanan, guys, eye contact. Says Rabbi Yochanan, beautifully. We make the Shtei Lechem as one. We make the Shtei Lechem as two. How's the Shtei Lechem as one? If you only bring one, it's ma'akiv the other. In other words, it doesn't do the job. We make it as two because they're baked separately. They're two entities. Therefore, I can apply both ways. In our Mishnah, where you bring one and not the other one, I'll view it as two entities, and therefore it'll be pigel only in one, according to Rabbi Yossi. In the Brisa, where I made a machshava to have eat a kazayas from both, then I'll view it as one. And that's the way we'll explain the discrepancy between Rabbi Yossi in the Brisa and Rabbi Yossi in the Mishnah. I think that was good. I think that was good. Baruch Hashem. It wasn't so good this morning when I was preparing it. It's much better now. Anyway, weiter. Boy, Rabbi Yochanan. Okay, guys, lachmei toida. There's four of them. There's 40 to 10, 10 of each, four types. Afei tanur, there's two. So now, boy, Rabbi Yochanan. Pigel b'lachmei toida. You have a machshava pigel and lachmei toida mahu. The minchas mafei mahu. In other words, I have machshav in one right up to the other ones. Tanali Rav Tachlifa, Mimarav and Eretz Yisrael, V'chein Ato Omer, B'lachmei Toida, V'chein Ato Omer, B'minchas Afei. In other words, the same achloikis in our Mishnah between Rabbi Yossi and the Chachamim would apply here as well. If you have machshav pigel in one, the other one won't be like Rabbi Yossi, like the Chachamim. You have machshav in one, who adin the other set. Tanarabanan. B'shash Shchita, this is a regular zevach, guys, a regular zevach. B'shash Shchita, Ishev Lechol Chatzi Zayis, Ub'shaz Zrikoch Kishev Lechol Chatzi Zayis. So I have two avodas. I have the avodah of Shchita, and I have the avodah of Zrika. Guys, Shchita is a makdish. It's makdish the dam. Makdish, Rashi brings is equal to matir. Go down a little bit, guys. A little bit down. See Rashi Dima Maskal B'shash Shchita. You have it, B'shash Shchita. Go down. Right when the lines get wide in the Gemara, go down about 5 lines after that. Parallel to that, 5 lines. B'shash Shchita. Astam zevach koi. We're going on Stam zevach. Shchita uzrika matirim ninu. Both Shchita and Zrika are matirim. Shchita kitsha ledam. Shchita is magdish the dam. Kida omar b'shli pirkin, as we'll say at the end of the parak. V'omar hasam habol lekadesh. Havol lekadesh is kibo lahatir. If something's magdish, it like comes to be matir. Usrika matir sabasa. What's bothering Rashi, guys? Where's shchita matir, right? Where's shchita matir? We know what matir is the basar, and the emurim is the zrika. What is shchita matir? Shchita is magdish the dam. The act of being magdish the dam, the Gemara is going to say, is equivalent to being matir. So now, very good. So I have machshava in the shchita and a machshava in the zrika. They're both matirim, and let's take it from there. Nachamol. Tanrabanan. B'shas shchita kishav lechol chatzi zayis, u'b'shas zrika kishav lechol chatzi zayis. Pigel, tneisha shchita uzrika mitztarfin. they're mitzdarif geschmack, right? They're both matirim. Ikka the army shchito usrika the travayu matirin in Kabbalah v'alacha loy, because Kabbalah v'alacha are good. They're avoidus, but they're not what? They're not matirim. Ikka the army others say hanach nemerachke. Those that are far from each other, the shchita and zrika are far apart. The kolshke and hani the mekarvin. Certainly, if you have machshava pigel in the halacha and machshava pigel in the Kabbalah, it would be, guys, we paskin a machshav in any one of the four avoidus would create pigel. So therefore, the halacha is like the second half, right? You'll be mitzdaref those two together because they're avoidus. Once they're avodah chashuva, they have the capacity to create pigel. Very geschmack. Ini is really so that these avoidus can create pigel. For Tani Levi, arba avoidus aim mitzdarfen lepigel. Shchita srika kabbalah v'alacha. So he's questioning the whole din. He's questioning the whole brisa. Rov elakasha. Ha Rebbe, they're not mitzdaref is Rebbe. Ha Rabbanon, that they're mitzdaref is the Rabbanon. Now, where's Rebbe that says this ain't mitzdaref? That's the rest of the share. Titania. Hashoichet es hakevesh lechol chatzi zayis mechalazu v'chein chaveroi lechol chatzi zayis mechalazu. This guy over here, guys, he shechted a kevesh to eat from this one, and he shechted the other one to eat from this one. So you have one half, one half. You have one matir on a half, one matir on a half. Yes? Got the case. You shechted both matirim, but you didn't shecht each one to be matir a whole. You shecht each one to be matir a half. Half of this one and half of that one. Rabbi Oimer ani shezeh kasha. I'm not being mitzdaref. I'm not combining the two. So I won't combine the shchitas to mitzdaref. Amalei Abaya. So therefore I won't be mitzdaref to two. And that's the brisa that Rabbi quoted, that what arba avoides. So I'm not mitzdaref, that's Rabbi. But the other brisa is the chachamim. Good? So far you good? So Amalei Abaya. Aimer the Shamalei Rebbe. When do you hear Rebbe say that what? That the avodah is not mitzdarif, right? That's dafka what? Where they're not being matir, because it's only two halves. Chatzi mata v'chatzi achila. Kuli mata v'chatzi achila mishamelei. Where you have the full, did you hear not? Again, this is a case of one half for one half, one half for one half. You're not doing the whole thing. But would Rebbe agree, right? Would Rebbe disagree in the case where you did a full matir, right? You shechted both of them, v'chatzi achila. I did shchita on the dam. I got a full matir. What's my matir? Shchita for the dam, srika for the basar. Why would you say they're not mitzdaref? Again, let's go. Let's outside. Let's set it up. Outside, guys. Shchita, zrika combines to go ahead and create pigel. Fred the Gemara, the four avoiders don't create pigel. You're not mitzdaref. You don't mitzdaref the two. Who says that? Rebbe. Says the Gemara. When do you hear Rebbe say that? You see by the following case: one kevesh, half. One kevesh, half. So I don't have a full matir. But over here I have a full matir. I have shchita is a full matir on the dam, and zrik is a full matir on the basa. How do you know Rebbe wouldn't be mitzdaref over there, right? How do you know Rebbe won't be mitzdaref over there? It makes sense that he's mitzdaref over there. That's why I read the Gemara. Amle Rava Barachana Labaya the Islay LeRebbe Kule Matir v'Chatzi Achila. If Rebbe holds Kule Matir v'Chatzi Achila, meaning Kule Matir for half a zayis. Our case, you shechted, you did a zrika, right? You did a zrika for half, and you did a shchita for half and a zrika for half, right? That's the case. Kulei matir, each one's a full matir. Would Rebbe, again, Abaya is saying that Rebbe would say you're mitzdarif, and therefore it's not a good way of answering the brisa. It's not a good way of answering the brisa, because the brisa needs someone half and half. And now comes Rava, Amalei Rava bar Chana Tabaya, the Islay LeRebbe Kulei Mate v'Chatzi Achila. If he would hold of Kulei Mate, a shchita and a zrika for half, ligzer Chatzi Mate v'Chatzi Achila at the Kula Mate v'Chatzi Achila. he should make a gzeira. If 2 equals a half, then a half should equal a half. 2 meaning you have a shchita and a zvicha, a full equals a half. It helps for a half. Then even 1 kevesh for a half should work. A half for a half a matir for a half. I was cryptic. We have a full matir, right? Either the shchita or the zrika, matering a half, right? And you want to tell me that Abaya, that Rebbe would say that is mitzdarif. Well, if that's mitzdarif, then it should mitzdarif also a gezerah to mitzdarif a half, 1 kevesh for one for chatzi zayis. You should go ahead and mitzdarif that. The Rabbi Yossi Gazar, Rabbanan Gazar, they both make gezeras. Rabbi Yossi Gazar did nine. Where's Rabbi Yossi's gezerah? Okay, we're going to go ahead now and go through Rabbi Yossi's gezeras. The Rabbi Yossi Gazar, Rabbanan Gazar. Right. Rabbi Yossi Gazar did none. If you come into the mincha with the kavana to be makded levayna lemachar, you did a kamitza to do the levayna the next day. Rabbi Yossi aim pasal vein bekaris, right? Because what you aim befagel the matter b'matter, guys. Remember, one matter can't be befagel another matter. V'chacham ma'amin pigel v'chayav lekaris. It would be because remember they hold chad mana, guys. We just did it last night. He hold that since the levayna and the klaimitz are in the same kli. That would be a case of what of that would be it's considered one matir, and for Rabban, and we see that what the Chachamim say pigel chayv chorus. Rabban and Nami that nan pigel b'kaimitz v'leil b'levayna v'leil b'kaimitz. Rab Meir oime pigel b'chayv chorus because it's chatzi mata. The Chachamim m'sheim b'chorus actually fagel b'chatzi mata. So what do you see from the words of Rava? Even in a case what the pigel in 2 avodas b'chatzi zayis did not mitzdarif, and therefore what Rabbi is not geyser in that. So if Rabbi is not geyser in that, it must be that what? That there is no difference between 2 and 1. There is no difference, and therefore what? That Abaya, what you wanted to say that it's not mitzdarif, einachinami, that is mitzdarif, einachinami, it's not mitzdarif. Because if it was mitzdarif, they should be geyser. So Amalei Abaya answers Rabbi Rechana Hachi Hashta. Bishlei Mahasan by the Kaimitz the Mincha for the purpose of being maked the Levana the next day. Gazer Rebbe Yossi be Kaimitz the Levana atu Kaimitz the Mincha. He's going to the Kaimitz the Levana because the Kaimitz the Mincha, right? In other words, if I allow you to get off the hook by Kaimitz the Levana, I might let you get off the hook by Kaimitz the Kaimitz. Rabbanan Gazri Kaimitz atu Kaimitz the Mincha Schleita, and the Rabbanan who say you mark the Shirai the next day, and the Rabbana who said that if you have a machshava to be maked the shirayim the next day, the guys that kaimitz, the regular kaimitz, to kaimitz minchas chayte, but there is no levayna. Ulevayna, and the guys when there's levayna, only levayna, to a case of rad ulevayna hababu v'zichen, where you have an lechem upon him. Ukvasanami, that's the case later on. We'll see in Tezayin. The goyza atu kvasim atu keves chaverai. 1 kevesh atu the second kevesh. We'll see that best Shemet Tezayin. Basach atu basach. In other words, there are cases that over here listed one after the other where there's a reason for making a gzeira. Elahacha, where he's mefagel b'chatzi mater b'chatzi achila. He's saying 1 kevesh for half of a chala. Mika chatzi mater b'chatzi achila ba'alma delekam v'ligzar. There is no parallel case to make a gezerah there. The other cases there was a concern. I'm making this gezerah to something else. What's your kasha over here? He should make a gezerah over half and half. There is no parallel case to be worried about to make a gezerah. It doesn't exist, and therefore you don't have to make a gezerah. So hachanami mistar by the time of the rabbanon, the goyza by pigel mistar to make a gezerah a psul of pigel. Mishum hachihu. That's the reason that, again, the reason that geyser is because there's a parallel case. Diktani b'seifa, moide chachamim Reb Meir, b'minchas chayte, the moide by minchas chayte, even though they hold aim mefagim b'chatzi mater, the moide by minchas chayte u'minchas kenois, shem pigel b'kaimitz, she pigel b'chayam l'karis. Why? She kaimitz hu amatir. And since by minchas chayte, there is no other matter in town, right? So hadin by we say that why by minchas knois and minchas chayta it is a pigel. Halamali lemisni. Why do you have to write the word? Why do you have to add the words shakaimasu amatir? Why do you have to write that? So pshit, it's pashit. There's nothing else. Like minchas knois, minchas chayte. Is there anything else? There's nothing else. Why was it necessary to write those words? Pshita mi ikamata achrina. Ella, what's the reason? Shahal kamashmalan. The time of the kaimitz. The reason that the kaimitz is pasal the chachamim. That when you thought about the haktorah of the kaimitz of a regular mincha, mishum the ikka kaimitz, the minchas chayte, the damila. Guys, why is there a din of pigel by having a kavana and kaimitz of the silas? I have the levina to go. Ella, because there must be a case I'm worried about where you won't have the levina. That's the minchas chayte. That's good for what you're telling me over here. You see, this is a case of you only make a gezeru where there's something to worry about. By minchas and the sachim, if I go ahead and do a kaimitz, not in sachim, mincha, why should it be a problem? You have the levina. Ella, why do you see? You have a problem with minchas chayta because there's no levina over there. So you see, they make the gezeru to that. Okay, let's go back to that Rashi. Thanks, Lenny. I looked at you and I remembered. Look at this. Long Rashi. Okay. Thank you. You see that Dr. Press has a better editor. He just wrote Rashi. The other blogger wrote long Rashi. Okay, let's see that long Rashi on Yudal and Amid Aleph. Very geschmack. Okay, Lafuki Midr Meyet, smack in the middle of the place. The Amar B'Sleif Masnisan, who's going to say at the end, Mefaglim ba'avodas chatzi mater. We all know Rabbi is of the opinion you don't have to be mefagel in a whole mater. Even, guys, if you bring one of the kvasim, you burnt one of the bezichin, that would create pigel. Because yesh pigel b'chatzi mater. Diktani, shachad echa, I jumped the gun. Diktani, shachad echa min akvasim, lechel shtei chalois. You went ahead and you shechted one of the kvasim to eat two chalois, lemachar. Remeya oimer pigel. The chayav l'karis, v'ikasha hakaimitz es amincha. Am I poisel b'machshavasai? If kaimitz in a mincha, why does it machshava pasel? Ha'avoidis chatzi matahu. The ha'iknami levaina. That's the point, right? Guys, you hear? You hear that? Now, tiritz b'kamitza vaday avoidis shleimahi. The haleka kamitza b'levaina. The act of kamitza, good, there are two matirim. Guys, the two matirim by the mincha. There are two matirim. What's the two matirim? The two matirim are the kaimitz and the levaina. There are two matirim by the kvasim, right? By the kvasim, the act of shchita is synonymous to both. So if I do one, it doesn't help for the other one. Masha Enkain, if one's a kaimitz and one's a siluk, that kaimitz zich alein is uniquely on itself. Says Rashi, tiritz the kamitza vade avoid the shleimahi, the leka kamitza b'levaina teda, the bektoris kaimitz imchisha lechol shirayim lemachar. If you have aktara of the kaimitz and you're thinking about burning it tomorrow, right? Pligi rabban of Amri. Kim the ikanami haktaris levaina lechashivi haktaris kaimitz lefagel. It itself alone can't create pigel. The tani masnisan pigel b'haktaris kaimitz v'loy b'levaina. If you just do the kamitza and not the levaina, right? The chachamim in pigel actually yifagel b'chol amater. V'ikasha ho kimta b'reish pirkin l'kuli alma mefaglim b'chatzi mater. The tani hakaimitz almanas lahakte kumsul l'machar moide Rabbi Yosi. You're doing kamitza for the purpose of burning the kaimitz. What about the levaina? Vari loy chishav el al chatzi mater al aktaris kaimitz. Lav pirchi. It's not a kasha. Bleidomi lahai. The hasam chishav al chatzi mater b'shas avoida shlema. There, you went ahead and you thought about a chatzi mater. I had a shchita. I'm doing a complete shchita. I have in mind one thing. That's chatzi mater. V'hachishav b'shas chatzi avoida kigon shchitas echa min akvasim. Masha'en came when I do kamitza. My kamitza is a full avoida. So it's not considered being mefagel b'chatzi mater. The list, Provide Rashi, guys, is so important. Moment time. Moment time. How is it possible if you do an act of kemitzin levaina, loite chacham say ain't pigel? Why? Because you have to do the whole matir. Now, so therefore, since I only did kaimitz and I didn't do levaina, it's not going to work. So 1 second. How therefore vikasha hu kimna bereish pirkin, according to everyone, mefaglim mechatzi mata. I have a case of creating pigel. Diktani hakaimitz al menas lahakte kum tzulamachar. So what isn't that chatzi mata, guys? You kaimitz al menas to burn the kaimitz tomorrow. Everyone's maida, even Rabbi Yossi, that it's pigel. Vari loy chishev el chatzi mata al haktaris kaimitz. Lav pirchahi. The leidami. It's not similar to the kvasim. The high the hacha. It's not similar to here. The hasam over there, when you had the machshava of kamitza on the kaimitz, chishev al chatzi mater b'shas avoida shleima. You had the act of kamitza was a full-fledged avoida. If I'm doing a full-fledged avoida and I'm thinking about chatzi mater, that's not the problem. The problem is when the avoida is in a chatzi mater. So the difference, fellas, comes out, guys. The difference between shechting one kevesh for the chalos and being koimitz to burn the koimitz by the shchita of shechting one, I did one avoida. I didn't do a complete avoida because I need a full shchita in two to matter. So therefore, I'm Masha'en Kain by Kemitza. The Lavoina is Siluk. This is a full Avodah Shlema. Doing an Avodah Shlema in one matter is not being Machshav Chatzi Mater. The difference is being B'shas the Avodah is an Avodah of Chatzi Mater or not. If it's Avodah Shlema, even though it's only mattering one thing, it's not Chatzi Mater. If it's not Avodah Shlema, if you have to do the other thing, then what? Then it's an action, the same action. Then it's not going to be Chatzi Mater. Okay. Thank you for listening.